Hello and welcome back to Binni's Retro. For those who don't know me, my name is Binni. I grew up in Iceland but live in Sweden today. Been mostly doing ZX Spectrum things on my channel so far, but branching out into the Sega Mega Drive and maybe other systems. Because Sega Mega Drive... So, between 1982 and 1992, the only way for me to play video games at home was my ZX Spectrum. But you know what happened in 1992? In 1992, I got one of these. Beautiful Sega Mega Drive. Imagine going from the Sega Spectrum to the Sega Mega Drive. That was a big leap, and in fact, what was great about growing up in Iceland with the Sega Mega Drive is there was no competition. Super Nintendo was very rare. It was way too expensive, and very few kids had it. Pretty much everyone who had a console back in those days, those golden years before the PlayStation, pretty much everyone had a Sega Mega Drive. And which meant games were everywhere. You would borrow games, you would trade games. There were even shops downtown in downtown Reykjavik where you could were just completely focused only on trading Sega Mega Drive games. So, as a result, I went through many games, and I grew up with many games. I did not grow up with some classics, but absolutely I was exposed to a lot of games, and I owned a lot of games. I traded away a lot of games, and yeah, I grew up with the Sega Mega Drive. Sega Mega Drive. I also have this one here. This is the Sega Mega Drive 2. And what I actually play my Sega Mega Drive games on today is the Analog Mega SG, which I don't think they make anymore, but it's a lovely thing. So yeah, I grew up with the Sega Mega Drive, and this video is about the games that I grew up with. So this is not a top 10 of, oh, here are the top 10 best Sega Mega Drive games. These are my top 10 Mega Drive games that I grew up with. And yeah, let's get cracking. So, first game, Quackshot. A bit of an oddity, probably not on many people's top 10 list for the Mega Drive, but for me, this was the game that I got with my Mega Drive when I got my Mega Drive. So, my mom actually, for some reason, she got a used Japanese Mega Drive. I don't know how she got it. It was probably very cheap. We didn't have a lot of money. And with it came Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, and some sort of bootleg copy of Quackshot and Devil Crash or Dragon's Fury. And I don't know, something about Quackshot, I really loved it. So I grew up with Donald Duck cartoons. I had taped them on VHS, and yeah, Donald was my favorite, and I also grew up with the Don Rosa and the Carl Barks ducks, which are very popular in Europe, especially in Northern Europe. Some great comics, and I'd recommend anyone to read them. And Quackshot kinda took place in that universe. Yeah, and for some reason, I never really ran into trouble. So there was only twice that I ran into trouble having a Japanese Mega Drive. One was when I had bought Street Fighter 2 and it just didn't flat out work. And the other one was with Quackshot, because I got Japanese text. And for some reason I just thought, oh, I got a Japanese copy, I don't know. So I didn't really figure this game out. I had a lot of trouble. I just tried again to figure out what I was supposed to do, because there's a little bit of talking in this game that helps you with puzzles. And when I brought it over to a friend, I saw, oh, the game is actually in English, and it just translated automatically to Japanese on my strange Japanese Mega Drive. But for some reason I just had a lot of fun with it, trying to figure it out, even though it was all in Japanese. I didn't have many games, I only had the 3 games. But I still loved it, because it took place in that universe that the Duckburg universe that I grew up with. And yeah, it's quite a simple game. There's good animation, music, and there's like a light hearted Indiana Jones theme to it. I don't know, nothing revolutionary, but just a game that I really, really love. So, Alien 3. A game that wasn't all that much like the movie, to be honest. It looked kinda like it, but the themes in the game are more kinda similar to Aliens. But what this game felt like, it felt like a real horror game on the Mega Drive. It had the trademark Aliens radar, and the aliens were jumping out at you, and it took a long time to figure it out. You kinda had to learn everything. You had to learn the levels, you had to conserve your ammo, you had to not run out of time. Not elements that you see a lot in games today, but it actually made the game last a long time. It controls great, it feels great, there's fantastic music, great variety to the weapons, and just a really, really good game. Shining in the darkness. So I really envied friends who had games like Eye of the Beholder on PC or Dungeon Master on the Atari ST. It's a genre of games I have always loved, but I couldn't play any of them. I only had a Sega Spectrum and then a Mega Drive, and Sega Spectrum didn't have games like this. I know later on I knew that they had Bard's Tale, but I didn't. I had not access. I didn't have access to that game. But yeah, this was my first kind of dungeon crawler, first-person dungeon crawler, and I love the look and feel of this game, and the Shining games overall. The graphics are like a mixture of French comics like Asterix or Lucky Luke, and a bit of anime. Really vibrant characters and really, really nice graphics. The game was tough, and there were random battles, but that meant that the game lasted a long time for me, which at the time was just really, really lovely. I think it probably took me months to complete this. And when I started it up recently, I just remembered all the lovely music and the art in the game. I think it's a real hidden gem for the Mega Drive. Now here's an interesting one, Herzog Zwei. In Iceland, there were a couple of trade-in stores, and they were focused pretty much only on the Mega Drive in the early 90s. Like I said before, the Mega Drive was the biggest machine at the time, and Super Nintendo wasn't really a thing in Iceland, so everyone who had a 16-bit machine pretty much only had the Mega Drive. And these trade-in stores would pop up and pretty much only focused on that machine. And one game that was always stuck on the shelf like an unwanted stray dog was Herzog Zwei. It may be because of the strange title and the uninteresting cover, but I don't know, at one point I was just trading in stuff and I could get this one for cheap, so I decided to test it out. I knew nothing what it was. I mean, we're talking pre-internet days, I don't know, this was probably 91, 92 or something. And man, this game was a revelation. And it was actually a proper real-time strategy game well before Dune 2 Battle of Arrakis. So super fast and exciting, you capture bases, you're like a crazy anime transformer. And I played this to death. I finished every level multiple times. And now, today, I regret that I ever traded in, because today this game is highly sought after and very expensive actually. But if you want to play it, there's a fantastic Sega Ages version on the Nintendo Switch, which has a lot of tutorials and things to help you out. I really recommend that one. I mean, what can you say? Sonic the Hedgehog 2, probably one of the most technically impressive games on the Mega Drive. For me, this was a Christmas present the year it came out. I was spending Christmas in the western fjords of Iceland, staying with my grandmother, and I didn't have much to do over the holidays. But I had my Mega Drive with me, and I got this game as a Christmas present, and man, it's just a lovely game. It's so well designed. A stark improvement over the first one, feels faster and better designed, with you have the ability to start your run quickly. There are no marble zones to slow you down like the first game. Yeah, great variety in the levels. I think the most memorable being the casino zone and the final flight level. It just feels very epic. And I was able to finish this game with all the Chaos Emeralds without losing a life, and I did that over and over again. One scene and one memory that I have of this game is my son, who today is studying to become a video game programmer. When he was 4, I left him with one of those cheap Mega Drive emulation thingies over the day. I was going into town, and we connected to the TV. And when I left, he just pushed the button over and over again. Thought it was funny that Sonic would jump, and apparently he played the whole day. And when I came back, he had finished the first couple of levels, and I don't think he's ever turned back from video games since then. And I think it's so well designed. I have great memories of playing this with all my kids, where they are jumping around as Miles, trying to help out, trying to figure out how to play video games. It's just a very, very well designed game. There's even a multiplayer mode. I mean, one of the most, like I said, one of the most impressive games for the Mega Drive. So this game, Phantasy Star 2, I remember being drawn in by the amazing art on the cover. It was kind of promising a crazy 70s sci-fi world. I saw it in one of those trade-in shops that I mentioned earlier. And in essence, that is kind of what I got. I had never heard about Japanese RPGs or JRPGs, and that term had not reached my shores back in 1992. It was pre-internet days, and I did not know about any Final Fantasies or Dragon Quest or whatever. But to me, this was just a world full of adventure. There were dramatic plot with twists and turns, and really one of the most heart-crushing scenes I've experienced before and since with video games. Exciting and tough battles, a long game, a real challenge, and I just loved the look and feel of this world. And it reminded me of one thing from growing up in Iceland, and in Iceland they showed this great French cartoon series on TV called Il était une fois l'espace. I hope I didn't butcher that. But there were various versions of that show, but the space version of that show was my favorite. And Phantasy Star 2 really looked like that. And what I learned later on is that show, the French show, was actually made by anime studios in Japan, even though it was a French show. And that's what made it look so great. And I remember finally when I traded this game in, because that's what you did in those days, I just felt a strong need to excitedly show the store clerk my final save before the final boss. I wanted him to see my high-level team and the cool-looking end boss, and I was just so proud of this game. I thought it was so amazing. But I have it today again, and overall, I just love it. I think it's, in my view, the best of the Phantasy Star series. I know Phantasy Star 4 is a game that people love a lot, but this is the one I grew up with. So this is my favorite. Devil Crash. That's the title I grew up with because, like I said before, I got it on a split cartridge with Quackshot, and there it was the Japanese version, Devil Crash. But in Europe it was apparently called Dragon's Fury, and that's the copy that I own today. And this is kind of where my love for pinball started. And I used to play this game all the time. It almost became a ritual every day for the longest time. I don't know for how long. And it just feels so good to play. It's fast and the mechanics of the board are great. There's great physics, the music is amazing, and just fantastic graphics and movement overall. Just a solid effort across the board with this game. And one of the in my view, one of the gaming's greatest moments is just hanging out a long time on the third level, jumping between mini levels with kind of blockers on the bottom so that you don't fall down to the second level. It's just a fantastic game with endless replayability. Just so fun to play. I really, really love this game. World of Illusion. And like I mentioned before, I feel the Disney games were pretty solid on the Mega Drive. Mostly with those games, the colorful animation, and in my view, World of Illusion is absolutely the best Disney game that was released on the platform. And if you have kids, this is the perfect game to play with them. They don't really release games like this anymore that are just so fantastic to play with your kids. There's light cooperative elements with Donald and Mickey solving easy puzzles together. I mean, it's not a very challenging game, but it just feels very, very good to play. It's just such a feel-good experience, like a breath of fresh air. And to be honest, I just regularly just boot it up just to feel good. And yeah, that's a very high praise for me. That the game is able to make you just feel good just by starting it up. A really, really strong effort. I don't remember how this game ended up on my doorstep. I'm still really surprised by it back in Iceland in the early 90s. But I'm very happy it did. I think I borrowed it from a friend or something. And to date, I feel this is the best 8 or 16-bit era shoot 'em up there is. I've played a lot of them. I love shmups, and yeah, in my view, this is the best one. This is the best shmup that was ever released on 8 or 16-bit consoles. And you can just feel when you play it how much of a labor of love this game is. The music is, in my opinion, probably the best music on the Mega Drive, even better than Streets of Rage 2. And the technical effects and parallax scrolling are amazing. The levels are big. You can go like far down, far up, and there's some amazing set pieces happening every single level. And it's also just quite a user-friendly experience. You can select the order of the first 4 levels. I think there's like 10 or something, but you can select the order of the first 4, and you can adjust the speed of your ship, which is really nice. All the power-ups are unique and well designed, and every level just feels very, very epic. Plus, it has, in my view, one of the best levels of the 16-bit era in any genre. Strife, one of the first 4 levels, is just an amazing experience from beginning to end. I mean, just watch the sequence that I'm gonna show you. I mean, you've already been introduced to this like hulking spaceship underwater in the scene prior, and then the music just goes wild. And finally, my number one game growing up with the Mega Drive, and I would say just my number one Mega Drive game overall. ToeJam Earl, it's just pure fun. It's best when playing with others, especially when you play if you need a game to play with your kids. This is the ridiculous premise. There's 2 hip-hop aliens that are crashed on Earth and trying to avoid all the strange humans by finding random power-ups and gifts scattered around. And sometimes these gifts might be bad for you or blessings in disguise, and it's just laughs. It's a funny game, and And what I find interesting about it is that it not only has fixed levels, there's 25 levels, and but it also has a proper roguelike option where the levels are randomized. A very rare thing indeed for this era of games, and something that made the game like endlessly replayable. And it has a hip-hop dance mode. The music is great, clearly heavily inspired by Herbie Hancock's Headhunters, but it's it's a strong soundtrack. And I remember just being also really impressed with the ending of the game, because this is not an easy game to complete. Especially with others. In my view, ToeJam is the much better character because he's fast and he can easily outmaneuver, well, relatively easily outmaneuver most of the humans. But Earl he's bigger and sluggier, and usually the one who's playing Earl is the one who dies first. But at one point I managed to complete the game, and I just remember the ending being really strong. After having gone through the ordeal of finishing this game, it is a gauntlet to finish it, and yeah, it was a strong, fun ending. And overall, ToeJam Earl is just a unique and wonderful experience overall. Anyone would have fun with this game. It's to me, like I said, it's just pure fun. And that was that. Those who've been watching since the beginning might have noticed there was a hint here in the t-shirt that I've been wearing this video. But yeah, thanks for showing up. But I'm gonna go into a few honorable mentions here. So, like I said, there was a lot of games floating around, and a few were very close to cracking the top 10 for me. For instance, of course, this one. I mean, in the summers in Iceland, I used to go to the western fjords of Iceland, in a small town, maybe 1,000 people or something, working fishing factories, and there was a lot of kids there, and mostly everyone had the Mega Drive, and we would play this one a lot. This was a great game, Streets of Rage 2, fantastic music, fantastic graphics, great gameplay, fantastic game. Probably would be 11 on my list here. We also played NHL. NHL 93 is the one we played the most, I think, because someone had NHL 93. And we became so good at that game that all games ended like 30-25. There's an easy trick to scoring in that game, but we had so much fun and it was very competitive. So those games, the hockey games, are amazing for the Mega Drive. The best sports games. One game that I really loved, a very weird game, strange game, Decap Attack. Platformer, you throw your head around and there's some strange abilities in it. It's a really fun game. This game here, this was so hyped. This was hyped up, and it was everywhere in the magazines. It looked beautiful, and when I played it, it also felt really good playing this game. Echo the Dolphin. It does get a little unfair near the end, but it's a great game. It's very atmospheric, fantastic music. Yeah, very close to my top 10. And this is actually, I would say this is one of my top 10 all-time favorite games, but not the Mega Drive version. The Amiga version, I would say, is the best version of this game. But uniquely, Lemmings has a very good multiplayer mode in the Mega Drive version. Not that fantastic a single-player experience, because it's best played with a mouse, but multiplayer, this game is amazing. And I'll probably make a video on that one at some point. So, it's the 90s, Kid Chameleon, different masks with different abilities, great game. Oh, here's one. So, I didn't have a PC, and I really wanted to play games like Eye of the Beholder. I didn't get a PC until later, so I actually loved this one. And I'm gonna very much do a video on this one again. I need to play it again. I haven't played it for 30 years or so. Dungeons and Dragons: Warriors of the Eternal Sun. I remember when I got it, I finished it in 3 days. I loved it so much. Classic Aladdin, fantastic animation, great music, one of the best Disney games around. And Castle of Illusion. I did have 2 other Disney games on my list. And this one is great as well. Maybe a little simpler than the others, but fantastic game. And there was a few other, like Chelnov Atomic Runner was one that I somehow stumbled upon. And many other games that I really loved playing. And yeah, hoping to make more Mega Drive and even Master System videos in the future. And thank you for showing up for this video.